Everyone knows Barbra Streisand. She's one of the most celebrated performers of all time. A voice that shaped generations, a face that lit up Broadway and Hollywood, and a name that's become part of entertainment history. But behind the sold-out tours, record-breaking albums, and Oscar-winning films, she's also a mother. And her only child, Jason Gould, has lived a very different kind of story. Born into fame, raised in the spotlight, and quietly walking away from it. Jason's life isn't what you'd expect from the son of a global superstar. From acting in his mom's films to stepping out of the public eye, and later finding his voice as a singer in his own right. This is the story of Jason Gould, a man who didn't chase the stage, but eventually found his place on it. Jason Emmanuel Gould was born on December 29, 1966, right in the middle of Barbra Streisand's rise to superstardom. At that point, she was already a Grammy-winning singer, a Broadway sensation, and a rising film star. His father, Elliot Gould, was also making waves in Hollywood. Together, they were a power couple, young, glamorous, and at the center of everything. But Barbra didn't see motherhood coming. In her memoir, she admitted the pregnancy was a shock. She had spent years thinking she couldn't have children, that maybe something was wrong with her. So when she found out she was pregnant while preparing for a 20-city concert tour, it turned her world upside down. Jason was born just after Christmas, and from the very beginning, he was part of a world that few kids could ever imagine. Cameras, red carpets, movie sets, all normal parts of his childhood. In fact, by the time he was a toddler, he was already visiting film sets, including the set of Hello, Dolly, where he was seen in his mother's arms. But despite growing up surrounded by fame, Jason wasn't raised to be a spectacle. His parents eventually divorced in 1971 when he was only 4, and while Barbra remained one of the most famous women in the world, she kept her son's life as grounded as possible. Still, when your mom is Barbra Streisand, normal only goes so far. Jason's first brush with acting came early, and unsurprisingly, it was with his mother. In 1972, at just 6 years old, he had a small role in Up the Sandbox, a surreal comedy drama starring Barbra herself. It wasn't a major part, but it marked his quiet entrance into the world of film. After that, he stepped away from the camera for years. He stayed mostly out of sight throughout his childhood and teenage years, avoiding the spotlight that was so tightly fixed on his mom. But by the late 1980s, Jason gave acting another try. He appeared in an episode of the short-lived drama The Bronx Zoo, and in 1989 landed a small role in Say Anything, playing a hard-partying rich kid named Mike Cameron. If you've seen the movie, he's the guy whose keys John Cusack hides to stop him from drunk driving. Then in 1991, he returned to the screen once more, this time for The Prince of Tides, acting alongside his mother again. That film was a big deal. Barbra directed it, starred in it, and it received multiple Oscar nominations. For Jason, it could have been a stepping stone into a major acting career, but instead, he walked away. In a 2000 interview, Jason revealed the real reason he stepped back. Growing up, he couldn't go anywhere without being photographed, not as a celebrity, but just because of who his mom was. He said having cameras in his face felt like being attacked. The constant attention wasn't exciting. It was suffocating. He didn't like the fame. He didn't like what came with it. And he realized early on that he didn't want to chase what so many others in Hollywood were chasing. While people expected him to ride the family name, Jason quietly stepped out of the frame. While Jason was stepping away from public life professionally, he was also coming into his own personally. In the 1980s, Jason came out to his parents as gay. It wasn't a dramatic moment, and it wasn't something he did for attention. It was just part of his truth, something he was living, not hiding. He never made a big public announcement, because he didn't feel the need to. In his words, "I never felt like I was in." But in 1991, when he was just 24 years old, a tabloid ran a completely false and invasive story. It claimed he had secretly married another man. Jason was blindsided, not just by the lie, but by how confidently the media sold it as fact. They even claimed to have seen wedding photos that didn't exist. He later said it was grotesque, how a lie that big could be printed without proof, without care, just to sell papers. And even worse, it turned something deeply personal into public gossip. But Jason handled it with quiet strength. He didn't lash out. He didn't run from it. He simply stood in his truth. He wasn't ashamed. He wasn't hiding. And unlike so many people who feel forced to come out, Jason simply lived out. No press release, no drama, just honesty. That kind of quiet confidence says a lot about who he is. Someone who never asked for the spotlight, but didn't run from who he is either. In 2012, Jason took a surprising step onto the stage with a mic in hand in front of nearly 20,000 people. He joined Barbra on tour, singing "How Deep Is the Ocean" in duet with her. It was vulnerable. It was raw. And for him, it was a huge leap. Imagine going from never singing in public to performing with one of the greatest vocalists of all time. That's pressure most of us can't imagine. But Jason saw it as a chance to grow. He later said, "It wasn't about me. It was about showing up, being a vessel for the music, and being there with her." His mom, of course, was moved. She'd known about his voice since he was a teenager, once overhearing him humming through a door and being amazed. But Jason had always feared comparison. Still, his need to express himself finally outweighed his fear. And that's what courage really looks like. After those tour performances, Jason kept going. He started writing and recording his own music. In 2017, he released his debut full-length album, Dangerous Man. It wasn't about chasing chart success. It was about authenticity. He told Billboard, "Music has phenomenal healing power. It speaks to the heart." For Jason, making music wasn't just art. It was therapy. It helped him connect to who he was and offered that connection to others. His voice is smooth, jazzy, reflective, very different from his mom's dramatic powerhouse style. And that's the beauty of it. Jason didn't try to be her. He found his own lane. Today, Jason Gould leads a quiet life, mostly out of the public eye. He's not doing red carpets or chasing Hollywood buzz. He pops up now and then, but on his own terms. And here's a funny twist. Even though his dad, Elliot Gould, played Ross Geller's dad on Friends, Jason has barely watched the show. He's seen a couple of scenes here and there, but that's about it. Fame isn't what draws him in. Jason Gould's story isn't one of chasing celebrity. It's one of carving out identity, peace, and passion in a world that constantly wanted to define him. He chose authenticity over attention. And in doing that, he created a life that's meaningful on his own terms. So, while Barbra Streisand may be a household name, her son Jason reminds us that living in the spotlight doesn't mean you have to lose yourself to it. He found his voice not by shouting, but by singing softly, clearly, and when he was ready. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories, and drop a comment below. Who else should we feature next? Thanks for watching, and remember, every famous face has a family story worth telling.